time seeing. You got a nose ring?
Yeah.
Oh, you do?
I have the tiny little.
The bitch is sparkling.
Yeah. Tiny little guy.
All right, official start. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good today.
I don't know how she introduced you. Camilla or Two Swans or?
Camilla, Two Swans. Badass.
Badass? Do you have a different DJ name?
No, Two Swans is the DJ name.
Two Swans is the DJ name.
Camilla is my...
Music.
Well, yeah, Camilla is technically the nickname of my biological name.
Which is what?
Camilla Isabella.
Oh, that's like middle and first? First and middle, I mean?
No, that's my first name.
Say it again.
Camilla Isabella.
The whole thing is your first name?
My first name is technically Camilla Isabella.
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah.
Do you have a middle name?
Francisca.
So say your whole name.
Oh, God.
Say it. Say
So
like the
it's
whole
so
shit.
Mexican.
No, but that shit sounds sweet,
Okay.
especially with the way you saying it.
Okay, my first name, Camilla Isabella, middle, Francisca Cantu. Camilla Isabella Francisca Cantu. It's very
That's hard.
I think it's a lot.
You sound like I don't know. I won't say it. It sounds very fancy though, very highbrow.
I sound like a really high-end restaurant.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
like
That's what I'm
Spain or
saying.
something.
All right, so you wear quite a few hats. You are a singer,
Yes.
a guitarist,
Yes.
a teacher.
Yes.
What do you do in the mariachi band?
Director of music.
And you sing or
Yep.
you play? You just play.
I play bass. Well, I started off playing vihuela, but right now I play bass. So most of the time I'm playing bass and singing at the same time. And then directing the group. So calling the songs, engaging with the crowd, talking to the people, just anything that hat needs, you know, whether it's like stage performance and presence, or if it's just focusing on playing the song and doing the vocals. I just kind of fill in wherever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess I could just put mariachi band member. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily have to be any one thing in the group because you do a lot of things, it sounds like.
Yeah.
You're a DJ.
Yes.
And a sound engineer.
Yeah, now I'm...
No, you've been a sound engineer, even live. I mean, all of that counts.
Oh, yeah, the live sound engineering, yeah.
Because you did, I know last year you were doing some shows and...
I think, oh yeah, I was doing stuff a lot for the Gallery Club. That's kind of where it started for me, was the Gallery Club just needed somebody to figure sound out. And the Gallery Club's 3 years now, or 2 years? It was 2 summers ago. 2 summers ago.
No,
so
man.
3?
That was last year.
Gallery Club
I don't know about the
last year.
Gallery Club, but I know
No.
last year you were doing something because I remember you got into it with whoever was running the program because of it was probably about the Hamas stuff. Because remember we went to Faux Lucky and we were talking about it that day.
Right.
That was just last fall or something.
I got you. Okay, so yeah, unofficially I guess 2 years ago, but more officially I'd say last year. But so I guess I think about like live sound engineering and like studio sound engineering to me are like two different.
But I mean, it is different, but it's still, I mean, because you call them both the same thing. It's sound, your engineering sound is.
Yeah. So
you're like running a show, like showrunner or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I really like that, honestly. I think in my first show, I would say like Gallery Club was like a tester a little bit because Gallery Club is just rappers, obviously, and computers and one computer, maybe speakers and a mic. But I ran sound for like this artist named Wick recently. I think it was like a couple months ago, and I feel like that was the first time I felt like, oh, okay, I'm really like sound engineering right now because it's guitars and vocals and bass and like a whole live band, and those to me are like two different worlds, right? Because it's just like one is much smaller, and that's why when you say sound engineer, it's like I'm thinking of like 3 to 4 different ways of what that looks like.
Yeah.
You know.
So you wouldn't have considered yourself to be like a studio engineer?
Not yet.
Not yet? Not even still?
I don't know. I mean, you tell me. You're my teacher.
I mean, I think you are because look, man, music is, especially for people like me and you, where we do pretty much everything alone.
Right.
It's like everything that needs to be done, you do it. So you might record yourself at home, you'll mix your own record, you know, whatever it is that you need to do. You will master it yourself. You're a sound engineer, even if it's just...
You're right, yeah.
You know how they say, like, you're an armchair psychologist, like you're an armchair engineer, because you got to do the stuff yourself.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, in that case, okay. So I would say technically that sound engineering.
Wear the hat.
Yeah, I'm
Just
like,
wear it.
yeah. But I'm like thinking really about. It probably started 3 years ago when I was taking that producing class with U of M, because that was when it was first like all of it was introduced, like EQing and like compressor and what everything does. So yeah, I'd say sound engineer of 3 years.
So like you said, recently you've been taking a class with me.
Right.
To kind of further your skills. And then you also been shadowing me otherwise, sitting in on sessions or mixes.
Yep.
As well as us working on your own music.
Right, EP.
So you've been kind of like, you've been getting your hands dirty with music. Do you feel like you're close to being able to confidently say it? I mean, that you're an engineer. You have like a lot of experience in the class under your belt now.
Yeah.
And like I said, you've been shadowing me. I think you're close. I think you're there.
Yeah.
To be able to say it.
I feel like it's like I would consider myself a sound engineer when I can hold my own in like your studio. When it's like I'm finally like, okay, I know what I'm doing. Like I don't need to call Red. Like I know exactly like how to navigate. And even to take it a step further, when I know how to navigate conflict, because obviously when you have sound engineering, like something's not gonna work. And that's just the way it works. So I guess it's like maybe it's too high of a standard, but to me it's just like I'm not an engineer until I can do all those things and also like problem solve. Like if something's going wrong in the studio, I have enough knowledge that I can also fix what's going wrong. Because what's the point of being a sound engineer if like you can't handle problems?
If you only do it when everything's going perfect, it's like it almost doesn't count.
Like I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I respect that.
Yeah, and it's like I've been in studio sessions. I remember this one studio session. This guys I was just meeting, and I was just like shadowing. Like it was my friend Mani's studio session, and I just came with her to vibe. We literally couldn't sesh for like an hour and a half because they didn't know how to get the mic working.
What?
So, yeah, we went on to do other stuff because literally nobody knew how to get the mic working. And I was just like, well.
This is the engineer we're talking about?
Engineer, quote unquote. We were all just like artists and friends. And so it's not like we had but I'm saying like, to me, like none of us were engineers in that moment because like none of us could even figure out like, how do we get. So yeah, it's like the standard for me is just like holding my own in Pro Tools, and then also like if things are going wrong, I'm wise enough to know how to fix that. Because what's the point of booking sessions if I waste artists' time because I don't know how to get the mic working or like something's going wrong?
That makes sense. Because I can attest to that. I feel like when I was engineering for myself and for friends, and then I had my own studio for a few years, for a couple years before the building ended up being closed down or whatever. But then once
was that Mix Factory?
This is right before Mix Factory. And then I was about to say, once I started working at Mix Factory is when I felt like I was like really in it. Yeah. And that was when I had to do a lot of problem solving. I had to work with a lot of different personalities. Yeah. The demand was a lot more intense. Like I needed to be faster. I needed to know different styles. I needed to know my way around every plugin, all the mics. And then that was the first time we got introduced to outboard gear. But we can get further into that. I really wanted to know, you just mentioned, you said, what school did you go to 3 years ago? You said? U of M,
University of Michigan.
And you did, what was the name of the class?
So my major technically was biopsychology, cognition, neuroscience. It was a hybrid of a major a little bit because it combined, like all of those majors are their own separate program and major, but my program took elements kind of each one and fused them into like one. So what I was explaining to you earlier, it's just like people hear psychology and they assume like, oh, it's psych. But like I said, psychology is more like the study of the symptoms, like the aftermath. Whereas like what I majored in was specifically on kind of like social humanities, social sciences, but with a more neuroscience focus. So it's like not the symptoms, but what's going on in the brain or in the mind that's causing these symptoms. That's like the easiest way I can distinguish like what I studied from psychology. And I don't do anything with it. Like I literally got the.
But you did take a music class, obviously.
I took a whole bunch of music theory classes, actually. So my college journey is really funny. Like that major that I was on, I had decided on that since my freshman year. But when my dad dropped me off, it's kind of funny. I'm literally moving into college, getting my dorm together, and we're moving stuff. And before he leaves, he's giving me my box, and he's just like, all right, here you go. I love you. Just don't drop out and be an artist. And I was just like, yeah, it's funny shit. It's real funny shit. And I'm like, okay, so my first 2 years of college was kind of me just people pleasing, because my parents wanted me to be a doctor. I was really smart in high school, like valedictorian, straight A's all the time. And so for them, it was just like, yeah, she's on track to be a doctor, you know, like something real big, you know. Because that, especially like my, you know, Latino-ass family, that's success to them. It's just like, you made it, right? You're educated, you're a doctor. And so I sat with that comment for a couple years, and I'm trying to get through these science classes, this organic chem, through this bio, and I realized I was really fucking bad at all of it. And I was just like, oh my God.
So what was the ultimate goal? You mentioned your major, but...
I wanted to be, so when I went into college, I wanted to be like a baby surgeon. I wanted to like, what are they called? A neonatal surgeon, like somebody that operates on infants and babies, mostly because I didn't want to deal with like big adult bodies. If I was doing surgery, my hands are tiny, bro. Like I
mean, that might be perfect for that.
Maybe, but I had worked in a neonatal department when I was in high school. So when I was in high school, I was in the baby department, you know, taking care of the newborns and helping out the nurses all the time. So for me, I was just kind of like, oh, I like that. I want to do that. So my first 2 years, that was me. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be the surgeon. Like I'm gonna take care of babies.
Yeah.
And then I'm failing all my science classes because keep in mind, I come from Detroit, where our education is not up to par with the burbs. So it's like, to give you an example, my school was so behind on science, I was taking 8th grade physical science my freshman year. I lost a whole year of just like what could be me, you know, learning the stuff that I needed for college to doing nothing, to learning about some kinetic energy, stuff you learn about in middle school. So I was really far behind in terms of like education and sciences. When I got to U of M, of course, one of the most elite public schools, my, you know, classmates or, you know, I was going to every office hour because I sucked. I was going to every study table, every group session I could because it wasn't making sense to me. It wasn't like, nothing was adding up. And all my classmates were like, yeah, like I took chem in my senior year. Like, yeah, I took advanced bio. Like, yeah, this was an elective offered like in my school, in my class, and I got college credit. So I didn't really need to take this class, but I just wanted to like, you know, like just further my understanding. And I'm like fucking failing tests and shit.
Yeah.
Listening to all this, and I'm just like, so I went through a really hard time with that science focused like major, and because I was trying to do a bachelor's of science. And I just remember one time I was at school my sophomore year, and I was taking a summer class because I failed in the school year, so I had to like retake that class. And I was in like a group, I remember it so clearly, like I was in a group study session with kids that already understood it, and I'm looking at the carbon molecules on the fucking chalkboard because this is organic chemistry too. And I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm looking at the periodic table, and I was just like, I can't do this shit. Like, I can't do it. So I literally walked out and I bawled my eyes out because I realized I can't do this major. I realized like right then, it was just like, yeah, like I'm not gonna make it to like whatever surgeon level like I think that I'm going. So I called my mom and I had a whole identity crisis, and I'm like, oh my God, like I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life, you know, because it was that forever. It was like, I'm gonna be a surgeon. But also it was people pleasing.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be a surgeon, you know. My parents wanted me to be. And surprisingly, my mom was pretty understanding, and she was just kind of like, you don't have to do that. I don't expect you to do that.
So what about your dad?
My dad, they took it a little harder. I'm not going to lie. Like, at first, so this is where the question comes into play. So after I decided I don't want to do this Bachelor of Science, I also didn't want to add time to my 4 years because I was on a full, I got a full ride.
Yeah.
But I had to do it in 4 years.
In 4 years.
Yep. So I was just like, let me just keep the major I have. Let me just make it a Bachelor of Arts. So instead of being mostly science focused, now I could take more like humanities related classes. So after those first 2 years, I was just like, man, fuck it. I'm taking all the classes I want, you know, because I'm not going the surgeon route. I don't know where I'm gonna go, but like I'm just gonna take stuff that interests me. So that was my first Intro to Latina Studies class. That was my first creative writing class. That was a class where I was just I literally took a class where you just go to performances and you write one page about what you saw, what the performance was. So I was going to concerts at U of M, classical concerts, you know, like R&B concerts, summer festivals, whatever they had. That was part of my class to go to. I started taking my first couple of like music. I took like maybe 2 music theory classes. I took one specifically, like there was one class I was dedicated to like vocal harmony and just like learning about that stuff. I took a class on the woman body. It's a woman studies class, like talking about how the woman body and the image has transformed a lot in the past 100 years in America and how it's detrimental, you know, to women and all that stuff. I took like a African American studies class, and I was like, fuck it, like let me just deepen my understanding everywhere. Like let me go through the whole spectrum, right? And it was actually focused on like, it was called Development of the Black Child. So it's just like all the things that a black child faces as they grow. I was taking it all. Took a music composition class, how to write and score music. I really liked that one. I wrote this piece that was like a 3-piece. It was a 3-piece like Cuban waltz. That's what I would call it. And that class was cool because I wrote it. I scored it. I wrote it for like a saxophone, a clarinet, and another saxophone. And
it was a waltz.
Yep.
Wow.
And she brought in musicians to play the score.
Oh,
and
wow,
I heard
that's
it live.
dope.
It was the coolest thing in the world. And it was just like, wow, this is crazy. In that same composition class, we had assignments like we had the ET scene of like ET, you know, flying up and going. And she was just like, score it, like make your own piece to that. And so I did. That's
amazing.
That was my first like piano composition. I did that on piano.
Okay, so wait a second. Where's this interest coming from then in school? Were you already in music as a kid?
I was in music as a kid, yeah. So I started playing music in 3rd grade. And even before then, like I was thinking about this on the way here, I've always had like really like deep core memories of music. I don't remember a lot of my childhood, and that's trauma and just, you know, like situation and circumstance. But what I can remember, 9 times out of 10, it's because I was listening to something. And like I remember it was after a swim meet, and I was in like maybe 4th grade or something, and I was listening to, I don't remember if it's I'm Sprung or Bartender by T-Pain. I'm like in the car, like in the back, and I also struggled with like, you know, depression as a kid. Like people don't think kids can struggle with like, you know, stuff like that, but you definitely can, and kids definitely do experience that. So I'm just in the back seat, you know, feeling sad, and that song comes on. I want to say it was Bartender, and I'm listening, and I'm like, holy fuck, this is so beautiful. The song was just so beautiful to me that I just cried. Like the way it was made, like the way he sung, like the auto-tune, like I just remember feeling everything, and I was just like crying in the back seat, like this is so pretty.
That's funny because I have a similar, I didn't cry, but I had a similar kind of like awakening to music.
Yeah.
I always liked music, but I remember specifically being in the backseat of a car, and it's funny, it's right behind you, because I used to go to the school, it's right over your shoulder.
Oh.
Well, you can't see it, but it's right over those trees.
Yeah.
I remember getting picked up, riding up that street right there, and the song Boom by Royce da 5'9" came on, and I remember being in the back seat like, holy shit.
This is crazy.
Like, I think it was his lyricism. It was like a super boom bap song.
Yeah.
But I had never really paid attention to anything like that. Now, like I said, I have been listening to music for a long time. I mean, obviously, we all listen to it because it's everywhere. But
right.
that was the first time I felt like I like
you were conscious
listened.
to it. You were conscious to it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you
I
good.
feel in words in your experience. But it was that. So it's just like, so really like the desire, I've always liked music. I always liked listening to it, and it always was an emotional connection for me. It's like I wasn't the type of kid or young adult that could just listen and I was like, oh, that was a cool song. Like, no, like Thinking About You, oh my God, bawling on the floor, just like
Frank Ocean?
Yeah, you know, like I've always had a really emotional connection to music. Like I said, I'm not like the type to listen and that's it. Like there's so many layers for me. Like what are they saying? How are they singing it? Why are they saying it like that? Why did they hold that one consonant like that? Like, oh, that made the song. You know, all this stuff I paid attention to. But when I was in the 3rd grade, my brother had started playing like drums for my school's marching band. And I remember I was walking around the school, just little 3rd grade me, looking for my brothers, because, you know, it's at the end of school, you need to go look for your siblings so you can go meet your parents at the car. And I hear just like music, like horns and clarinets and flutes. And I'm like, what is that? And I go, and I end up finding my brother in the room. And I'm looking at the teacher, and it's funny. His name is Mr. Hill. He was this older black musician that was teaching all of us. He was teaching like a class of like 30 kids. It was a lot in that class at the time. And you know, I'm like this tall. Like I'm tiny now. Like imagine me in 3rd grade. I'm like yay tall, looking up at this tall man. And he was like really, he was funny, but he was strict. And he's just like, who are you? Why are you in my class? And I was like, I'm looking for my brother. And he was like, who's your brother? And I was like, Mariano Cantu. And he's like, Cantu? And I was like, yeah. And I'm looking around the classroom, and he's noticing that I'm getting distracted because, as you know, I'm talking to him, and you know, I can tell he's a serious man. I'm like, all right, let me act right, you know, like let me not look like I'm blowing him off. And I'm looking around the classroom, and he's noticing me, like, look, and he's just like, do you play music? And I was like, no. He was like, why? Your brother does. And I was just like, we don't have any instruments like at my house. Like, you know, we don't have anything. Because also we were kind of poor at the time. So it's just like, we don't have anything.
So how old is your brother?
He's 2 years older than me. So he's
he
in
was
5th
in 5th grade.
Yep, he's in 5th grade at the time. And then I catch my brother, you know, in the back room, looking at his book, you know, practicing. And again, this is after school. So
So is this like a marching band type of? Okay.
Yep, so it's a marching band. So I walk over to my brother. Mr. Hill's like kind of like following me, watching me. I think because I was so small, he was probably more or less worried that I was gonna mess some shit up, like touch something I wasn't supposed to. Like, again, because I probably look like I'm in 1st grade because I was very small as a kid. I was so tiny, like half the height of most of my class. Like, always just been very small.
Yeah.
And he's watching me stomp around, you know, look for my brother. And I'm watching my brother like read music. And I'm looking at him, like I'm looking at him see that, okay, he's hitting every time he's counting and like hitting this, he's hitting that. Like I'm putting it together. And then I turn around, I'm like, can I be in this class? Can I take this class? And then he's just like, what grade are you in? And I was like, 3rd? He was like, no, 4th grade and only. And I was just like really sad about it. And I think he thought I was like, so he asked me, he was like, what do you want to play? And I was like, I want to play the drums. Like, I really want to play the drums. He was like, drums? That's loud. And I was like, I don't care. They're cool. Like, look how loud they are. That's why they're cool. Like, look at they outvalue everybody in this room. Like, this is all I heard when I was walking down the hallway. So he just kind of like laughed it off. I think he thought I was just kidding. Like one of those like, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
But I wasn't. Because literally, I remember the first day of school the next year, I walked to his classroom, and I was like, I'm in 4th grade. Can I sign up? Like, can I do music now? And
you were serious.
I was so serious. And I don't think he expected that either, because he puts it together, and he's thinking, and he's looking at me, and his head's turning, and he's like, Cantu? And I'm like, yeah. Like, you said what's up? Like, you said 4th grade. I'm in 4th grade. So he let me join the band. And I remember 4th grade, there was like 30 students. 5th grade, there was like 30 students. 6th grade, I think people are starting to realize music is lame. Everybody's going to gym.
Yeah.
And now there's like 6 of us. And Mr. Hill noticed that, and he invested the fuck out of us. He spent so much time with us. He made sure we were right, that we were tight. He yelled at us a lot.
I mean, the fact that so many people dropped out of that class and it dropped down to only 6 people probably allowed him to pour even more into you, which kind of was a blessing.
It really was.
In a way.
No, for real. And it's funny, I just had a dream about these band members yesterday. those six were like my first band. We're like sixth grade, right? And you know, like and it's funny because like I'm the only girl like among the six, but I'm on the drums, you know. So they're all playing trumpet. One's playing a saxophone. One of them is playing a clarinet. It's like that, like 3 trumpets, a saxophone, a clarinet, me on drums. And eventually, my brother graduated, but we were the band for years. 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, like, it was us. Like, we were holding down, like, Christmas recitals. Like, we were doing really cool stuff. Whenever we had, like, the count day, you know, they walk around the school and they get everybody excited. We were the marching band, like, leading the school, just 6 of us, you know? And I feel like he really gave me a lot of room to be really, like, he had expectations, like, by the end of the first year, or no, like 5th grade, 6th grade, he was already putting me on the next book. He was like, you're going home and like you're studying this over the summer, and like don't come back to class unless you know like what we're doing here. And I was like, okay.
So you play. So I've personally seen you play the guitar. Mm-hmm. You say you play the bass in your band.
Yeah.
You say that you play the drums in school.
Yep.
What else?
So that's what I'm saying. He gave me a lot of room to explore. So
Right.
at first I started on just snare drum. Eventually he let me play bass drum and he took over. Like there would be times where I would play bass and he would play snare, and then we would do stuff like that with our little band. And there were other times where eventually he got like a xylophone and he made me learn the xylophone. He's just like, I want you to play this now because this is also a percussion melodic instrument. So I feel like he really was just like pushing me to keep going, keep advancing. And I think because he was like that with all 6 of us. Like, you know, if we were in class and he wanted to work with the saxophone that day, all of you better be in your own sections or in your own corners practicing whatever you got to practice. Because when he's done working with that guy, y'all better be tight and y'all better have it down. So I would just be in the closet working on my own parts, you know, or it wasn't like a BS music class, you know, like it was like expectations, you know, like we need to do this half an hour of Christmas music, like learn this Christmas music. So with him, I was playing like snare drum, bass drum, xylophone, and xylophone was my first kind of understanding of notes.
Yeah, like the theory of it.
Yeah.
Because that's a chromatic instrument, so it's like, I believe that's classified as a chromatic instrument. So it's like you said, it's percussive, but it's also
Yeah, and I liked it a lot. Like, and it's also piano. Like, I feel like anybody starting needs to start on piano because like you need to see how the notes are working in relation. So, and I also think strategically he knew that. So 7th grade, unfortunately, he left. I think he got sick or something. I got this new teacher, Miss Newhouse, who was, I think, just as strict as Mr. Hill, if not a little more, because she came from a very like classical background. Like she sang opera, like she played French horn, she played piano. So to her, it was no room for bullshit. It was just like, she just had expectations of us, you know, and she made them very clear. And especially she had seen, like, I think like the work Mr. Hill had done with us over the years. Like she had a strong 6 to 8, like, I think it was 6, but it might have been 8 because I'm forgetting about. It was me, Alex, George, Jacob, Brandon, Saul, but Saul left 7th, and Sergio. So what, 7? It had to be, yeah. I think that's everybody. I could be doing somebody dirty as hell right now in like my history of like a famous person or something. And they're like, yeah. I'm so sorry if I am, but I remember them like distinctly because I was with them every day. That was our elective. We were there after school. Like those were the people that I was in a band with. That was my first band ever, right? So Miss Newhouse came. Her husband did mariachi music. Came when we were in like 7th. Actually, he came when we were in 8th grade, so she trained us for a year. The next year, she actually put me on drum set. So that was my first, 8th grade, she let me go crazy, just like have a whole set.
Wow, so you went from snare to bass to eventually get a whole set.
Yep, a whole set. So that was my first time. I didn't get too far with it though, because halfway through the year, her husband came around and was just like, hey, do y'all want to join a mariachi band? And we were all like, what the fuck? Because he's white, you know?
Oh, wow.
He's like an old white man.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe that wasn't their reaction, but in my head at that age, I'm just like looking up and down, like
I don't know how to feel about this.
Who are you? You know, but I trusted my music teacher so much. I knew she had our best interest in mind.
So what was she? Race?
White. They were both. They were a very white couple.
Very white.
Very white, but they loved the hood. They were for it. I don't know. I don't know.
So have you retained the ability to play all of those things though?
I'm not as strong in drums as I used to be. I would say like I have a drum set at my house and I play around with it. Like, you know, like
you do?
Yeah, for sure. So like I play around with it for sure, but like don't ask me to do no complex rhythm. I feel like drum set's one of the hardest things, besides violin, of course.
Because you have limb independence. You have to know how to do things with each leg.
Each limb has a mind of its own.
And then you have to like be able to move double time with one hand while moving.
It's hard. It's hard.
Right. You have to. Sometimes I've seen drummers play like 2 different time signatures with different limbs.
Yeah.
Like, bro,
it's crazy.
Your brain is crazy to be able to do that.
I think the drum set is literally one of the hardest things a person can do because of that. Like, you have to be able to hold so many like rhythms, yes, but also polyrhythms. Like, that's the pocket, you know, like. So to this day, like I can hop on a drum set and just like hold the rhythm, you know what I'm saying? But the way I saw it all transfer over was just all those years just gave me such a strong foundation for rhythm. Like even when I picked up guitar in 8th grade, because we eventually ended up saying yes, you know, to the mariachi idea. It turns out he had a youth mariachi. Some like 10 or 8 years ago, he had been going into Mayberry Elementary and just teaching violin to little Latino kids that wanted to learn violin.
So what elementary were you at?
I was at Academy of the Americas.
So that's Southwest?
Yep, they're both Southwest. The only thing that connected us all was just that his wife happened to get a job there. She went home, talked about how these really talented like youth kids like that have all these like that have been these years of just skills.
And you said you were in the 8th grade for this when you got invited to the band.
Yep.
Okay.
So he came running to see, you know, like what she was talking about, and he sat in a few practices and was like, yeah, I can work with this. Asked us. Our first show was at like at the Fox Theater. Like, we were at the Fox Theater within months for.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this a long time. You said 8th grade, so you're like 13?
I was literally 13, yeah.
But
Actually,
you've been doing music since you said 4th grade, so you were like 8?
Yep.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or 9 or something like that? Yeah, that's a long time, man.
It's almost 20 years. It's more like 16 years.
Now, I know you said your brother played the drums. Do you have any other musical family members or no?
No. And that's the weirdest part about it. Like, my family in general is very creative. Like, I play music. You know, my brothers play music as well. One of them actually is in the military. He still finds time to play in a band, you know, like aside from the military stuff. And my sisters are dancers. So it's just like, but none of this was modeled.
How many siblings?
I have 7 total.
All from the same parents or no?
No. So I have, my mom and my biological parents had 3 kids. My dad went and had like 3 more. My mom went and had 2 more. And I did have an 8th sister, but she passed away. So technically I had 8 siblings.
So where do you rank in the age?
Second oldest.
Second oldest?
Yeah, but in my opinion, especially in like a Mexican household, the oldest girl is the oldest. Like,
you said second oldest. So your brother's the one that
was in 5th grade. Yep.
He's the only one that's older. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But like I said, just with, you know, expectations in a Latin household and what goes down, what is, you know, demanded of the daughter, the oldest daughter versus the oldest son, I would argue I'm kind of the oldest because he wasn't changing diapers, you know, or getting people's lunches or cooking after school. Like, I was supposed to do that, you know, which is traditionally the eldest siblings' roles and responsibilities.
So you grew up in Southwest the whole time?
I've been in Southwest all 25 years of my life.
You're still there?
Yep.
What, may I ask,
Yeah.
what generation are you?
Mexican, Max? Yeah.
Of people in America?
Second generation, technically.
So your parents came here or your grandparents came here?
My grandparents came here.
Right.
So It's funny. Most of my dad's side actually is Tejano, so they're from Texas.
Yeah.
You know, but my mom's dad immigrated from Mexico here to Detroit. I thought it was for the cars. I thought it was like, you know, work to work in the. I recently learned some shit about him that I'm like, I don't even know who that man is.
Your dad?
Grandpa.
Your granddad, I mean?
Grandpa, yeah. I feel like I should talk about this. If there was a time to talk about my life story.
What's up, man?
I recently found out, this is weeks ago. I thought he came up here, you know, humble, you know, Mexican man looking for work, which was kind of true. But then I found out this man was like a heavy arms supplier for like gangs and cartel here in Detroit.
It's not hard to believe.
Heavy, like to the point that when he got deported, they never let him back in. Never. This man is a danger to our country.
Oh, he got deported to...
Back to Mexico. So
And he said never again.
He's never allowed entry back into the United States.
That's like Rico. That's like, he's like super deep in it.
Yeah, he was not... I don't know who... He was a rough man. I've heard so far. And it just makes so much sense because for so long, my mom has been so against like us knowing him, like us having a relationship. And
he's still alive?
He's still alive.
What? Man, you better call that man.
I did.
Oh,
I called him last year.
For the first time? Mm-hmm. What was that like?
Hey, Grandpa! Like, you know, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like I've always known there's a reason I am the way I am. I can't be so anti-America for nothing. And then to find out that my grandpa was also like, fuck the law. Like, I got no respect for this country. I'm gonna give guns to gangs. Like, I'm gonna keep the cartel strong in Detroit. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. Part of it makes sense. I'm not even gonna hold you.
But that's why I said I want to make sure that I make this clear because I said it's not hard to believe when you said that he was running guns. I'm not saying that because he's Mexican. I'm saying it because if you are a minority or if you're a part of a subjugated people, a lot of them got into crime because it was like one of the only ways you could really like
make money,
not just make money, but like get ahead and make a lot of money. It's like you get into crime. It's the same thing with black people. It's the same thing with a lot of people. I mean,
it's just a deeper layer because I don't know. Here in the States, you can kind of trace, you know, people are very loud and proud about, you know, who they're working for, gangs they're affiliated with. But when you're from Mexico, it's just like, I don't know who he was even working for type stuff, you know? Like, I don't know what he claimed. I don't know if he's super deep into the cartel. Like, I don't know anything about him. And neither does my mom. And I think that scares the shit out of her because it's like, she doesn't even know what he's involved in. To this day, he will never give us his address. I tried to get his address, so that was our first phone call. It's just like,
so how did he answer the phone when you called? Like what?
He loves me. He loves the shit out of me. I'm his first granddaughter. Like, come on.
I mean, he had never talked to you or seen you before that?
I had gone when I was a baby and when I was an infant. I've gone to Mexico twice, but I just don't remember the trip. I kind of remember them. It's just like faint kid memories. I remember a big plaza and stuff like that. But the first time I was a baby, like, and I know because I've seen a picture of my grandpa, you know, holding me, you know, like, and just the way he's holding me, I'm like, oh yeah, he really loved me. And I could tell he was excited for, you know, a girl granddaughter. And then I see, you know, more pictures of him and my grandma and in Mexico and, you know, the way they're caring for me and the way they dressed me. I was like, oh my God, I was like a little baby princess. Like they had like little regal looking hats on my head every day, lace dresses all the time, gold on my neck, wrists and ears. Like I was a little baby princess. Yeah. So I just know like my grandparents loved the shit out of me.
And he's probably the one that funded that gold.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he had me dripped out. He was the most mad when we got robbed, when our house got robbed. Because him and my mom have talked, like they talk periodically. It's just not consistent. But he was mad when he learned they stole our gold over here. Pissed. Because
that was one of the things they got, huh? They
got all the gold. You know, of course. Like, that's what they were probably looking for. So my grandpa had bought us jewelry for years and years and years and years and years.
So they must have had a lot of time to run through your house.
They did. They did it when we were all gone.
Yeah.
And they had hours and hours and hours. Yep. So, so my grandpa You know, I can just tell he has a lot of love for us over here, even if he can never come back, you know, and see us in person.
But he won't let you come see him.
So he will. So the first phone call we had, I made my mom call him because I was just like, I want a relationship with my grandpa. I don't give a fuck if you never want to talk to him again, but I want to know this man. This is my family. This is my ancestry. So like, I deserve to have a relationship with him. So you need to call him so you can introduce us. And so when I add him on Facebook, he's not going to be like, who the fuck is it? I'm sure he wouldn't do that, but still. So she calls him, and I'm just talking to him. I'm like, hey, grandma, like, what's up? And my Spanish is a little funny, but he don't care, you know. He's just happy to talk. And I told him, I'm like, I'm going to come visit you, like, in the next few years. He's just like, I have a whole house for you. Like, I'll give it to you just for you. And I don't know how much of that is real. Like, right, you know, I don't know if it's that family, like, you know, when family wants you to come visit them, and they're like, you have your own house all to yourself. And you get there, and it's like a bedroom. You know, like, I don't know if it's one of those or if he's being, like, straight up.
You got uncles in, yeah, because I met your uncle.
I got uncles everywhere.
Right, so how many siblings does that, I mean, how many kids does that grandfather have on your mom's side?
I think he has 3. I think he has 3 daughters. So I have aunts and cousins. I have a whole family in Mexico. Like, honestly, like a whole family.
And they've stayed there?
They've stayed there
the whole time?
He had them, I believe,
Once he went back.
either before or after. It's possible before. Mexican dudes do that a lot. They'll go have a family in Mexico and then be like, I'm going to go get more money for us. Come over here, start a family, tell this family, like, I'll be back. Go support their Mexicans do that, man. It's some crazy shit. Not even just Mexicans, Latin people in general.
Yeah, but people who, I guess migrants in general do stuff like that because they will come here. I know people personally that will come here, work, and send all their money home. Stuff like that. But then they'll have their own thing going here, too.
Yep. Like, I think my mom is the youngest, so I want to say he had a family before my mom. He had kids and daughters, but I'm not sure. You know, that's also stuff I want to, like, get clarity on, because my mom just really doesn't talk about him. But I've seen him, like, when I was a baby. He's seen me, rather. I was a baby. I was an infant. Now that I'm grown, I'm like, I'm on your head. I'm going to come see you. But my mom said he's never given her her address. That's the full circle. It's just like, he's sketchy, and not in a way that's like, maybe you'll like backstab us sketchy, but in a way that's just like, you got some sort of criminal history.
It's dangerous to be around you.
He's dangerous to be around, exactly. Part of that makes you want to go see him more, because you're a cool ass dude.
That's the same way that I feel.
Like,
I damn near want to be around you more. That's the same way I feel about my own father. Not that my father's not like, he's not a marked man or something. He's never been a part of a cartel or anything, but, you know, it kind of makes the person more interesting because they have, like, I don't know, they have a storied history.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you have a story, man.
Yeah.
Like, you have a story, and who better than your granddaughter to know it?
Yeah.
You know, like, that's the way I felt with my grandmother before she passed away. Like, especially when, you know, those weeks were coming and I could just sign a sense, like, this isn't going to go well. I was asking her hella questions, like, childhood. What did you learn? Like, when you went to Texas and looked at our ancestry, what did they tell you? Like, timelines. Like, I just want to become this person in my family that knows those things, and that when somebody's like, you know, my kids are like, what was my great grandpa like? I can be like, he was a fucking armada. Like, he was a cartel ass dude. Like, you come from a line of cartel. Like, you know, like, I think that's just cool to know, and it's important to know. Like, that's 2 generations back. You know, I should know things about the man that fathered my mother.
You ever heard of Black Bottom, Detroit?
Oh.
You're sitting in it. This neighborhood used to be a historical black neighborhood. From here, well, we're kind of in the middle of it. If you go all the way downtown and come all the way back this way towards the east side, it was a neighborhood called the Black Bottom. And I found out through interviewing my family that my family was over here deep. My like since the 1920s or something.
And that's cool as fuck to know.
Right here.
Yeah.
And I never knew that. Like I said, I went to school right there. I've been over here my whole life.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends, you know, was born and died over here. I didn't necessarily live here, but my auntie lives maybe 10 minutes from here. She worked right at this rec center that's right behind you.
Damn.
So I used to spend all of my time here, only to find out when I'm 34 years old that my family has lived and died here.
Damn.
For like 100 years, bro. That shit is crazy.
It is wild when you think about your present life and circumstances are all predetermined by decisions people made 100 years ago. Like, why did my Texan Mexican ass family end up in Detroit? I don't know, but like I'm here. And even me being born and raised here in Detroit, why did I somehow end up being tangled with the music of the city that my grandpa is from? Shit that just is like predetermined, destiny, you know, type stuff. Like, again, like mariachi comes from the state of Mexico. It was kind of, not born, I'd say it came from a lot of different places, but it was Guadalajara is known for mariachi. And my grandpa's from there, you know, and it's just somehow in this random ass city of Detroit, Michigan, like I'm here doing mariachi. What
was your experience like growing up here? What was Southwest like? Before you even start, let me just say, I never had been to Southwest until like 6 years ago.
You told me.
I mean, I had been like in passing, but probably didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I mean, because, you know, going up Michigan Ave, you're going to run through Southwest.
Right.
So I've definitely been, quote unquote, but I hadn't experienced it. I didn't know anybody. I hadn't eaten food. I had never run through the neighborhoods until like 2018. And when I went, it was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I didn't even know there's a whole pocket of Detroit that East Siders and West Siders don't even really know about.
Because we don't have to.
Right, like, because you have no reason to cross.
Yeah, you're always in your community.
You have your own world in Southwest that is almost secluded to itself.
We love redlining. We love it. Like, separated the fuck out of us. They said Bengali population here, black people here, Mexican people here. This is great.
Polish and Hamtramck.
Yeah, like
Arabs in Dearborn.
Yep.
But yeah, so I had always heard stuff like, especially because my dad ran the streets, so his way of kind of like telling me about Southwest was like, don't go down to Southwest fucking around because they do not play.
Yeah.
That was what he told me. I remember we were riding, I think we were in Rouge or probably, you know, we were probably close to Southwest when he mentioned this. Because I don't quite remember exactly where we were, but we were probably in Rouge. And he was like, yeah, you don't fuck around down here because they do not play down here. And he said that a few times in my life, and I'm like, what does that mean? But, like, I know what it means now. Not because I've experienced anything, but just I'm not a kid anymore, and I know what certain street shit looks like. And, like, you're talking about people that do have connections to cartels and shit like that. So that was like, I always had, like, this fear of Southwest in the back of my head, kind of like.
Yeah.
And then once I did go.
I'm dead imagining Southwest as this, like, big bad.
Right, but that was the way that it was presented to me. But then when I went, it's like, it's just a city. It's just, but the thing that blew my mind was the fact that, man, like, coming from Detroit is so black, especially East and West. It's like,
where the fuck did this pocket of Latinos come from?
My man's just riding me down. Where are we going? Central.
Yeah.
We shooting down Central, and I'm like, bruh. I literally asked him, like, where the fuck are we at? He like, this Southwest. Everything's in Spanish.
Spanish,
I'm like, what the fuck is this? I never knew it was here. So,
funny.
Great food, great people. I don't know what it is about you guys. I get along with you guys the best. I don't know what it is. Because I don't really fit in the Detroit, typical Detroit scene. I don't really have a family there. But when I met you guys, everybody kind of, I don't know if it's like a cultural thing. But everybody kind of embraced me. The first time I met you, you invited me to your house. And you cooked.
Yeah, I made you fettuccine.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just, as a people, that's how a lot of us are. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, I can't vouch for, like, obviously, like, I can't be like, every Latino is like this, because you meet some rude ass, racist ass Latinos. You will. But, like, especially in Mexico and customs, and this is stuff even as a young woman. Not that young. Woman, I'm still picking up and learning, like, you kiss people on the cheek when you say hi. You know, make sure they're not thirsty. If they're hungry, like, you don't eat in front of them. Like, it's just stuff that we grow up to be mindful of, you know. And I feel like that shapes you, you know, like, as a person. Like, now, and I feel like it's the same, like, there's a lot of things culturally in Detroit that go on that stems from, like, Black culture that I pick up on, not being Black. Like, even, like, you know, the idea of, like, if you're out anywhere and you meet somebody eye to eye, you have to acknowledge them. Like, you gotta be like, you know, like, what's up? Hey, how's your day? You know, we just made eye contact. Like, I don't know why that's a rule, but I feel like it is. Like, I can't just look at you and be like, and now that
it's taking us disrespect.
You know, and like, that's something, and even like holding the door for elderly people, or you know, that's not particularly just a Black culture thing, but definitely the eye contact thing. I've noticed it way more in settings with a lot more Black people than like Latinos. Latinos is kind of more, we kind of do the same thing of like some sort of salutation, but it's not mandatory. You know what I'm saying?
See, that's so. Hearing you draw the comparison to that is something that I think we're robbed of. I won't say robbed. It's just not something we experience in Detroit because it's so Black here, right? But when you go to Chicago, even though it's very Black, it's like, it's still a really big mixture of stuff.
Yeah, no.
So you're running through neighborhoods that might be all Indian or all whatever, especially you go to New York. I remember the first time I went to New York, I heard this stat that says something like, on the island of New York, or in the city of New York alone, there's like 180 languages spoken.
Damn. Yeah, that's a lot.
And you have to think about what that means. That means there's
100 ways of degrees of separation, too.
Yes, and then there's so many different ways of living in one place.
Yep.
But here, we don't really get to experience that. So,
Detroit experience.
When you say things like the way that, I mean, even just something as small as a salutation, that's something that I don't necessarily have to think about being different for other people. I just assume everybody acts like I do.
Go to New York.
Yeah, and
everybody, the opposite.
Everybody do not act like you.
Yeah, when I first went to New York, I was trying to do that, you know, like the whole eye contact salute thing, and people were looking at me like I was crazy, and I'm just like, okay, I guess this is just a Detroit thing. Like, I guess we just respect each other's, you know, like, existence enough to be like, hey, what's up? You know?
I think the eye contact thing is kind of a way of checking temperature with people, because especially if you're like walking down the street from each other, it's like you're like, what is he on?
Yeah.
Like, so you look at him kind of, are you going to speak to me, or are you about to shoot me? Or
and I feel like that has to be, it's definitely cross-cultural, and I feel like it's deeper than we think for reasons that we know.
Yeah.
Because, like, even today, I was at the cafe with my best friend, and, you know, we're working on our laptops, quiet. And from another table, all we hear is, like, yeah, it's full of Mexicans. And me and her literally just, like...
He was talking about the places for him?
No. So we're just he's just talking. He's just talking.
Something.
He's talking about something else. But the point is, our immediate reaction was like, eye contact. You heard that? But we're having a silent conversation right now. Like, you heard that? And then we were like, okay, like, you know. So it's just like, it's just understood. Like, you know, like, sometimes, like, I think things don't need it. Like, it's not like we're gonna hear that and then be like, did you hear him say Mexican? No, we're having a whole conversation in eye contact, bro. Like, you heard that shit? I heard that shit too. That was weird. And then we're just kind of both like, okay, like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's deep. It goes deep.
Yeah, it does. And there's a lot of little nuances to all of these cultures that cross. But so back to Southwest.
Right, how is it?
Yeah, growing up there, what is that like?
It was great, honestly. I remember vividly still the, like, Cinco de Mayo parades, like when they would have the super big parades, like, and the horses at Clark Park, and the big festivals, and all the bands and folklorico dancers. And I remember that vividly. And I also remember the shootings, you know, like, that caused those same parades to not happen sometimes, some years, you know, like, it's like, as much as I can remember, like, you know, the color and the food and the beauty and just like all the Latino people in Southwest, I can also remember, like, the violence and the crime and, like, all of it. It's all the experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
So, but when you say, so I know when someone says what crime looks like in Detroit, I know exactly what that looks and feels like. I know it's drive-bys, I know it's random shooting, I know it's people shooting in the air, I know it's robberies.
Yeah.
What does that look like in Southwest?
in Southwest, I'd say it's also keep in mind there's a big cartel population in Southwest.
Yeah.
So it's like cartels a lot more, I think, slick with their shit. You're not gonna see like Fox 2 News, like this drive-by. Cartel's quiet, you know, like for a reason. And so it's like stuff that I would hear would be down the grapevine as a child. It would be like, oh my God, like they found like a body in this abandoned house, or like, oh my God, like they found like a severed head, you know, like on the side of the freeway. Like it was never news because they don't move that way, right? So it's like for us, it was more like the crime was more hush hush, but it's happening, you know, like this is what people are seeing, this is what's going on, like more. And also like there were a lot of like child abductions, like when I was a kid and when I was growing up, my mom was super protective because of that. And it's because, you know, like sex trafficking and all that stuff wasn't on the news, you know, like.
So are you saying that, are you perhaps saying that the cartel dabbles in sex trafficking?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they sending women back and forth
People don't know that?
to Mexico?
People don't know that?
I don't know.
It's a thing, for sure. The cartel's not rich just because of drugs. You know, they have. Should I be masked or some shit? Like,
Right, like darken you out deep in your voice. No. Like, we don't have to get too deep into
weird
it.
letters, like
We
that.
don't gotta get too deep into it, but I
Okay.
don't think I've ever heard that.
Yeah, I would say it's a part of them. Yeah, they do sex traffic, and they will snatch women up and send them to Mexico or to Canada. Like that's a part of the cartel. It's not just coke. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's a lot more than I think people realize, and that's what I'm saying. These are things known by Latino people. These are things we just know. You know, not going to be on the news. It's not going to be on. And you know, the real sick part is it's not going to be on the news because most of the time the government's profiting off of it. Our government profits off of the cartel succeeding.
Yeah.
So it's like growing up in Southwest, you're not going to see a lot of the stuff that's going on. I don't know if it's because of like bribery. I don't know if it's because they're just discreet. But a lot of that information didn't get out. It was just families talking. It's us talking at family reunions and dinners and lunches and churches and shared school spaces that like people are talking about this stuff. You know what I mean? So that's the Southwest thing. You know, like you know about violence going on, you know about crime going on. You might not always see it on TV. So it's just like that's what I'm saying. As much as I can remember, and almost all of like personally in my family growing up in Southwest, like a lot of my uncles were delinquents, like stealing all the time, like on and off. Not really violent criminals, more just like theft and scamming than anything, but still stuff they went to jail for. So my uncles, you know, my dad's brothers, because he had like 13 siblings, about maybe 8, 9 of them stayed in Southwest. I remember they were always in and out of jail. So it's not like crime was like a distant thing to me. I'm like on the phone like, hey Theo, you know, like how's the ramen? You know, like you know, like, you know, what do you say to a man in jail? You know what I'm saying? Like, see you soon.
Right.
Oh shit. So you know, it's like. That's like it's not everybody's Southwest experience, but like it's mine, you know, like having like being robbed, you know, every other winter because winters get real rough. That's why I was saying right now it's getting really rowdy in my neighborhood again.
What's like a big thing though, and like what's a big like I know in Detroit
Big crime.
No. I mean I'm saying the opposite side of the spectrum. Happy things that. Detroit, we all know how wild Detroit is in general, right?
Yeah,
but, you know, we look forward to stuff like the fireworks season or Thanksgiving and stuff like
that. The crime rate rising. We got to do
we got shit to do. We got parties to go through.
Right.
What is the other side of that in Southwest?
Yeah.
What does it feel like?
It's you know, Southwest is, on a typical day, like, so I live in the house I grew up on, right? So I've been in the same neighborhood for a long time, 20 years. Well, 22, because we moved when I was 3. So it's like, I wake up, if I need avocados, I walk to my local store that has avocados. Maybe I want some tacos, ask them for some tacos. Maybe I don't like the tacos from that restaurant. I'm gonna just walk down the street, go get some tacos from the truck that only takes cash because they're better. And then they're gonna give me shit about giving me 2 green salsas that I like. And then I gotta be like, come on, man. Like, I want the green ones. I don't want the red ones. And then I, look across the street to the gas station and, see the occasional person, like wanting, begging, and walk back to my house, maybe drive around. Like, Southwest is, I don't know, it is its own experience, but I think it's not unlike any hood experience, like any hood is a hood, like we got the commonalities, the bodegas, we all got that. Yeah, like we all got the guys that will take your check and just give you cash. I don't know how the fuck that works, like, but they take your check and give you cash. Like, we got, all that stuff. Yeah. But like I said, the Cinco de Mayo parades are really big. Like, wow. Like, I remember Southwest for that. And my mom majored in social justice education at Marygrove College. So I was also...
Really?
Yeah. So as a young child and also a young teenager, I'm going to like city council meetings and I'm going to different like protests and organizing things and like immigration rights. Like, I'm going to all of these things because mom has no childcare. So I'm also seeing how much Southwest like organizes and how much like community is there. So it's just like, my experience I think was very like niche. Like, for some people, Southwest might not be that, but for me it was, parades and organizing and, like going to Marygrove's not Southwest, but, my mom getting out of school and picking us up and taking us to the taqueria, and us just getting some tacos because they're cheap, and then like going back home, not staying out past the lights, when the lights go off.
You guys, was Halloween a big deal in Southwest? Stuff like that, trick-or-treating?
Yeah, kind of, but we always drove to the suburbs. Like, people, 9 times out of 10 people in Southwest are probably driving to the burbs to like, because they want the full candy bars,
All right, the good stuff.
They want the good shit. They don't want the little gum packets.
So I'm just asking. Yeah. It's Halloween. It's not like it's a big deal. I'm asking simply because I'm just trying to get a scope of like what. Yeah. Because I know what it was like growing up in Detroit, and Halloween was kind of one of those big things for especially as kids. Yeah. So we would, that was one of the things we could look forward to, despite how fucked up everything was.
You know what it was for us? I think it's September. September goes crazy in Southwest. Like,
why is that?
I'll show you this. Can I show you this video? Can I show the camera this video? So funny. So a lot of the Latin American countries' Independence Days are the first couple weeks of September. A lot of our Independence Days are in September. So like, you have the Mexican Independence, September 16th. Southwest always goes all out. Like, all the restaurants have the decorations out. Like, every place every place that's important is throwing their own like grito or throwing their own events. Like, you got really big festivals with mariachis performing and dancers and like 500 people just out in Southwest, outside, just like vendors that have dresses and gold jewelry from Mexico. Like. And
you said Mexican Independence is September what?
September 16th.
So what is Cinco de Mayo the celebration of then?
Some bullshit.
Oh,
I'm
really?
just kidding. So Cinco de Mayo is technically, I still like the holiday, don't get me wrong. I still think it's like really important, it has a lot of significance. I just think that, corporate America did what it does best, and they saw an opportunity, and they were like, let's capitalize it and make this for everybody, and everybody drink. Really? So Cinco de Mayo was actually a battle, if I'm not mistaken. It was some sort of Puebla, some little village, had fought against France, and I forgot what village it was, but they fought against France, and whatever battle that was, they won. And it was really important in the war. For some reason, I don't know, because I suck at being Mexican. Cinco de Mayo was a battle Mexico won. It wasn't like,
it wasn't the Independence.
The Independence Day, the one everybody goes crazy for, is September 16th.
See, I didn't even know that. That's something that I wouldn't know. Yeah. That's interesting though. Yep.
Yeah, so it's like Southwest, like they're really big on September 16th. sometimes Day of the Dead too, like around November 1st, you'll start seeing restaurants, you know, like everybody start pulling out their candles. You'll see a lot of altars. That's pretty cool, I think, about Southwest is you start seeing these restaurants and places have like altars.
Really?
Yep. And they'll put, because the tradition with Day of the Dead is to remember the deceased.
Yeah, I want to see that. What's the Disney movie that did that?
Coco.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's exactly like that. Like you'll start seeing it at restaurants, at nonprofits, just altars. And I think that's a really cool thing about Southwest. They're big on Christmas too. Tres Reyes, which is cool, which is actually January 6th. A lot of
what a coincidence.
Southwest families, yeah. So bakeries will just start pumping out these breads. It's like sweet bread. The rosca is what it's called. And like, so around that time, you'll see hella bakeries having like rosca. Like everybody has rosca at that time. And you're supposed to eat it, you know, like in like a lot of, I think it's mostly Mexican tradition or Catholic. I think it's Catholic specifically. Catholics, I want to say. They celebrate when the kings brought the gifts, you know, because they're just like, I don't know, it's a really big thing for them. Like the kings found Jesus, they brought him gifts. Everybody, let's get together and eat this bread. People are doing that in Southwest around January 6th. And then, of course, Cinco de Mayo parade. So Southwest just follows like all of the culture and traditions of just Latinos in general. You know, like we're all celebrating that. And most of the time we're celebrating it like in community, at churches, at schools, you know, because a lot of schools are even like Latino kind of centric because 90% of the students that they serve, you know. I was going to say something about going back. Oh, so it's Independence Day. It's like, so I was driving through my neighborhood literally last week. And I was joking because I was joking around with my friend because people in my neighborhood are mostly like Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Cuban. There's a lot of Caribbean Latinos in where I live. And they, you know, those light posts, like as you go down the street, there's light posts. They took it upon themselves to nail flags all down my street. Like Puerto Rican flag, Dominican flag, Cuban flag, Puerto Rican flag, Panama flag, Ecuador flag, Puerto Rican flag, like going crazy. Like literally down all of McGraw. You get to one street and for like 10 blocks, it's just straight flags. And we were just joking around about how like that shit's definitely not regulated. The city did not tell them to do that.
They fucked those light poles up.
They did. And it was funny because I'm like riding around just taking a video and I'm like, this is so funny. Like they don't give a fuck. They're like,
well, that's dope though, man.
Yeah.
You know, pride, I guess. You're like representing your people, man.
Hell yeah.
Fuck the law.
That's what Southwest is, like for real. Like, you know, with or without this permit, with or without you telling us we can do this, like Southwest people are gonna celebrate their culture. Like, no matter what. No matter what.
I didn't realize that this conversation would be so interesting. I mean, not saying I thought you were gonna be uninteresting. Okay. I'm just saying I didn't think it was gonna be so many. Bitch. It's like so many things that's coming up out of the conversation that's making the conversation.
Well, it's been in the works. We've been trying to do an interview together for a long time.
I've been asking you for a long time, but I decided to just say fuck it and do it.
Yeah.
So we're here. But all right, let's switch gears a little bit. You're young.
Right.
Do you feel young? In terms of the life that you've lived, do you feel young or do you still feel like you're in the beginning of your adult life?
Yes, but
as a 25-year-old? If
I could describe it like this, I feel maybe like I feel young in my mind, in my body, in my spirit, but the wisdom doesn't feel my age. Like it feels a little.
Now, what would dictate that? Is it because of what you've gone through, or is it just
definitely what I've gone through? And was that the end of the question?
No. Do you feel? I mean, go ahead, finish. You say what if you have something else.
I think what it is I think death really changes a person, and not just because of grief and you know like all the really hard things that come with it. I think it's the facing of the morality of it all, and just how I guess like fleeting time in life is.
Yeah.
And the first death I experienced was my sister. You know, when I was like 7 years old. So I feel like I aged years You know, like it did something to my brain to learn that people could die.
Yeah.
Especially because my sister was a baby. You know, she was like an infant when she died.
Okay.
So it was like, I remember that whole day. Like I remember the drive home. I remember like the sunset. I remember the color of the trees. Like I remember mom telling me she died. And I just feel like my brain it changed, you know, like I think that kind of stuff can impact a person's literal like brain. Like, I don't know. There has to be some research about it. But so I feel like I aged. I started aging mentally at, I think, a way younger age than, like, I'm going to take some water. Hold up. Woo!
I'm sorry.
No, what?
It looked like you were about to start crying.
Oh, no. My throat was dry. That's why I said, ooh. Anyways, I feel like I just aged fast, like, mentally, you know, because 7-year-olds are supposed to be, you know, not thinking about stuff like death and where does a soul go, you know, when they die. And damn, my sister wasn't baptized. Like, does that mean she's gonna go to hell? Like, is there like a place where, like, so it was just thinking about stuff that I would say children don't like have to think about.
Yeah.
So, and then just throughout my life, I've just had like a really, I'd say like, I've had quite some, like my sister dying and just like my uncle dying when I was a teenager, my grandma dying, this really strong maternal figure when I was 19. I feel like every death just did something to my brain a little, where it's just like, I was losing that, I guess, I was losing that immaturity, that like carelessness that you have as a young person. And I was, you know?
You have no idea how much I can relate to what you're saying right now.
So it's just like, I feel, that's why I say like, yeah, I feel young. Like, you know I'm young, but I would say like with my experiences and how many times I've had to like look at a casket, it's like, I don't feel my age up here. You know, I feel more like, I feel like an older person in my head. Cause it's just, like I said, I think it's just something about death. And then especially seeing death happen to like the people closest to you, that it changes you. It has to change your brain on like a chemical level.
I think
for
so
real.
too.
Yeah.
The first time that I actually lost my grandmother when I was like 2.
Yeah.
And people were saying that I was very sad about that. I was just at barbecue. I was just at a barbecue, and my older cousin, who was like 20-something years older than me, she was like, I remember when our grandmother died, like, you were like really sad about it. Of course, I don't remember that. Mm-hmm. But I went through it nonetheless. But then when I was probably 5, 4, one of my older cousins committed suicide. I was maybe 5 or 6 years old. And I went from seeing him almost every week to just never again since I was 5 or 6 years old. And that's crazy because I still think about him all the time, but
you didn't know him that well.
I barely know him.
Because I'm telling you, it's like, it does something to the brain. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I knew more about exactly what it does, but I feel like it catapults the aging a little bit. Like, not physically, but it maybe physically too. Shit, I don't know. Like, maybe that shit does affect you, like, you know, on a physical level. But, yeah, even going back to, like, the Southwest experience, there were a couple of kids there was a girl in particular, Ileana, that died in a drive-by, like, while we were in high school. Like, and just think about that, what that does to, you know, her friends, what that does to a whole school, a whole community that saw a young person, you know, face a really, like, violent end. What does that do to your brain? You know,
Right.
Kids in the suburbs aren't worrying about their friends getting shot. Like,
Exactly. And that's the kind of reason why I'm asking the question to begin with. Because I'm curious to know, I mean, you're like 10 years younger than me. So
right.
I know what I felt like at 25. I know when I was 25, I kind of felt like I had arrived and like this was my final form. Mm-hmm. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah.
So my next follow-up question to that was, do you feel like there is room for improvement? I don't know, for yourself. Do you sense that there's more growth to be had for yourself, or do you feel like you've arrived?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like young people have this arrogance because I did, where I said, you know, I was like, well, I'm 25, like I know everything, I'm good.
Yeah.
But boy, was I wrong. Yeah. But I feel like when I was younger, I was called serious a lot. I remember literally in this school, in 5th grade, they did, you know how in our senior year, they'll do like class best dressed, class most likely to succeed. In 5th grade, they did one of those for just our class. And they did most serious. When they got to that, they got, the teacher was calling it out. Like, and we were voting by raising our hands, like, you know, he should be that. When they said most serious, everybody looked at me. Because I was the kid that I didn't play much. I would take things seriously. I would take things personal from people. Like, I don't really want to joke. And I kind of feel like when I look back at my life, I wonder, like, why? Why was I like that? Why am I like that? And it's probably got a lot to do with experiencing death at a very young age. Our environments, where we come from, the things that were done to us.
I was literally, I damn near want to put this video on the camera because I was literally just watching a video while I was sitting on your couch about how even fighting in front of a kid can affect, like, it was this experiment, I love psychology experiments. This is one of the reasons I kept with my major too, because I just love, like, a cause and an effect, and I love, like, social research specifically because it's the study of the human mind. Like, who doesn't want to know about that? You know, it's like practical. And had this infant at a table, had 2 adults talking. In the first part of the experiment, like, the adults are just talking and the kids just playing and stuff. I was like, oh, it was a recording. Here it is. I was like, oh. But anyways, they're just talking normally, you know, this and that. And they put a toy in front of the kid. The kid's laughing and looking at the toy and pulling it out and like, playing, you know. The second half of the experiment, the same kid, the adult walks out, they put another toy in front of the kid, but this adult is like yelling and he's visibly mad, angry, talking at very loud volumes. You just see the kid watching like this, quiet, serious, very serious, like trying to understand like what is going on. He wouldn't touch the toy. He didn't want to play no more. So it's just like,
wow.
Yeah, there's stuff.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that happens in your first couple years. That shit will affect you, like elementary, middle, high, and that's all too. You know, that's like what do you say? That's like psychological theories. You know, like attachment theory, which is essentially the idea that like how you were cared for your first 2 years of life, how you learn to form attachment with your parents, your caregivers, will affect the way that you attach to people for the rest of your life.
I felt bad, but I was telling my dad, I don't want to air my parents' business out, but I was telling my dad one of my very first memories that, you know, if you were to think back to the earliest thing you can remember experiencing or seeing, the first thing I can remember is my parents fighting. And it was physical. This is the first thing I can remember, and I remember why it happened, and I remember the words that were said, and I don't know if I can remember anything before that, and that is crazy to me.
It's like a child's mind it's like this camera. Like, you don't know when it's just viewing, and you don't know when it's recording. Like, you don't know what a child is going to
internalize
forever, like literally forever. It's kind of a similar experience for me. Like, I was a very serious kid too. Like, I was very smart, serious. I knew I was different from other kids though from a very long time, and I was conscious. That's the thing. It's like I was very conscious that I was different from everybody around me, whether it was, again, my circumstances, what I was being born into. You know, my mom was domestically abused too, so it's just like, what do I not consciously remember that might have subconsciously, you know, worked its way in as I was entering preschool and kindergarten? Because it's not related technically, but like nap time. I was always like, why the fuck are y'all falling asleep in this class? Like, how are y'all falling asleep in this classroom? Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't feel safe falling asleep here. Like, why? Y'all just hop on that cot and sleep?
Just go at it, like, just...
I did not fuck with nap. I didn't fuck with nap time.
I feel you.
You know, and my teachers would always entertain me. They would let me color, or they would talk to me, or they would let me do something else, but I would not fall asleep. I just wouldn't. I didn't like it. I didn't want to do it. I don't know why, but I just wasn't gonna
That's
do
funny
it.
because my kids don't fuck with nap time at school either, but I don't think it's because for
Yeah.
any trauma reason. They're just like, I don't want to fucking shut down. I want to keep playing. Like,
Yeah. So
but-
it's like that. And also, I remember this very specific circumstance where my teacher, we were all looking at the workbook, and there was like a really small hole and like a semi-medium hole like this in the workbook, and there was like a hedgehog, big rodent. And my teacher was just like, all right, class, if you think the rodent can like fit in this hole A, circle A, like go to the carpet. If you think that it's supposed to fit in, they're trying to teach us reasoning and logic and stuff. They're like, if you think that it fits through this hole, like go with B. And I'm looking at the book, and I'm like, oh, okay, but I'll just stay right here. Everybody walked to that carpet.
Yeah.
Absolutely everybody. Like, again, packed ass school, because it's a DPS. It's pre-elementary. Like 45, not 45, but like 35 preschoolers like on the carpet. And I'm looking at the book, and I'm scared, and I'm looking at the carpet, and I'm like, am I wrong?
Man.
And I'm looking, and I'm like, no, I fucking can't be wrong. Like, and I'm looking at the teacher, and the teacher's looking at me, and she's looking at me do this back and forth, and she just busts out laughing. And she was just like, no, you're right.
So there's a I don't know if it was the CIA or the FBI. They did this social experiment where they had one actual person come into an office, right? And they had, like, let's say 9 other actors, or like they were also agents. So they were in on whatever this experiment. Let's say they passed around a card and it was a triangle on it. And they were asking each person, what is that? The first person, the real person, says triangle. Then he passed the card over, and the next 9 people said it's a square.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
So then they come back to him, and like, what is that? And he's just like,
That's
it's a
right.
square. No, he said it's a square.
That's crazy.
The social thing is that it's like you're pressured into just assimilating and just doing what everyone else does because you don't want to be the odd one out.
Right.
And that's like you said, you were interested in the psychology. The human mind is more interested in being comfortable and being a part of the group.
And accepted, right.
Than they are being right.
Damn,
almost.
That's crazy. And that's where I'm fucked up because I don't give a fuck about it.
And that's the same way that
that's
I am.
where I'm fucked up because I don't give a fuck what y'all think. I know I'm right. Like, and that mentality, it does me good, does me bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like it's like an outlier kind of thing. And I think, and like just going back to experiences and what you experience, in just life and everything. Like, I think, like I remember when my sister had passed away, like going to school, like the next day, and just everything feeling. And I think those were probably my first, like not knowing, but first few episodes of like depression and just like. Because it felt like I'm not here. Like, I'm going through the motions right now. Like, I'm going to school, like, I'm getting out the car. Like, nothing's really changed, but I just don't feel, like, present. I'm not here, I'm just literally, I'm moving through this sim. Just like, boop, 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 put my backpack in the locker, boop, boop, walk to class, sit down, listen to the teacher for, like, a few hours, okay. And I'm going back to my locker, and I think it's, like, the end of the day, and my teacher's just like, if you need to talk to me about anything, you can talk to me. And I'm looking at her like, why would I? Like, who are you? And that's what I'm saying, like, even as a child, just this idea of, like, why would I need to do what you're telling me to do? Like, and granted, I probably should have fucking talked to somebody. Like, yeah, maybe she was right. But it's just like, I remember that day because I remember, like, nothing feeling the same. Like, just looking at it's like I woke up. It's like my bubble popped, It's just like I'm in class and I'm sitting with the kids and I'm just not eager and I'm just not caring and I'm just kind of just like, life sucks. People die. Like, I didn't even know people died last week, and now
you do.
Now I know, and I just never saw like school the same after that. And surprisingly, that's when I started struggling academically too. Well, not surprisingly, but I struggled academically for like years after that because it was just a sense of like, I really don't care about this. Like, I'm just here and I'm sitting down and kind of learning, kind of not, because class is disruptive and there's so many students and what are we learning this for anyways, you know? So like being that eager student, you know, from preschool and just being like, you know, answering and this and that, and then now, you know, becoming that serious student that just kind of like stays quiet and accepts that I'm here.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I do a lot of work to try to make sure that my kids can stay kids.
Yeah. Well, it's not the instant cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll catch myself getting in this spot where I'm like, no, don't do that because you gotta be on point. And you can't do this because you gotta watch out for the people that might kidnap you. But I'm like, sometimes you just gotta let them be oblivious because you don't want to overload them and you don't want to rob them of their time of being oblivious. Because that's bliss. You know, as a kid, you get to be a kid and you get to not worry about the pressures of the world. Right. Now, I don't want my kids to be totally, you know, unaware. I don't want them to be food.
Right.
I don't want them to just be walking around just naive. But, you know, there's a balance there. And that's why I try to keep it because exactly what you're talking about. Once the kids' bubble is popped and they're like, oh, and they're like aware of what's going on.
Suddenly space is like actually tangible.
Yeah.
You're like, this is a room. Like before, everything just felt like you were just floating forever.
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
like, you're just going to class and run into the car after school. Like now it becomes, you know, you're worried about other people's feelings and how you relate to the world. And, and that was my experience the whole way. Yeah. I don't know what popped my bubble.
Too, yeah.
You're saying it probably was the death of your sister, and that makes a lot of sense. But for me, I'm not quite sure what it was. But I do know I've been feeling the same way that I feel today since I can remember. Yeah. And that's not easy.
I'm telling you, it's specifically also something about people in domestic abuse, I think. Like, I think that, I wish I would have read more when I was in, like, school and stuff, but that has to do something to the brain all its own. Because, like, growing up, too, like, hearing fights in the room and you know, hearing hits and hearing stuff, like, that can't be good for, you know, a child's brain as well. So it's just so many things happening. And, you know, like, parents, I think, I'm not a parent, so obviously there's a lot that I can't talk about or claim to know. But just in my experience of having parents, you know, it's just like they might see, like, you know, like you ever complain to your parents and they're like, what do you mean? I was a great mom. Like, I fed you. Like, I gave you hugs. Like, what are you talking about? It's just like, okay, but what were the things that were being processed that was indirect, you know? And that's, that's what I think parents fail to understand the most. It was just like, it's not the direct attention and affection, it's the indirect
It's
too.
more nuanced than that.
Yep. And so it's just like, there's just a lot, I think that, and then to bring it all back about how all of that makes Red, how all of that makes Camilla. It affects you to this day. Like, it's just so crazy. And this is why, like, I studied psychology, because I just find all that stuff fascinating, like, for the better and for the worse. Like, it's just fascinating to me how we're just like these little conscious sponges, just picking up, you know, like, subtle behaviors and patterns and social cues, like saying hi when you make eye contact, or like being quiet on the more reserved side because you grew up to understand that you need to watch your surroundings and you need to be monitoring how you're behaving according to how people are behaving around you. Because you're gonna, this might potentially, like, it's actually like safety, right? Like, like not being in tune and aware of what emotional state people are in around me might end up putting me in danger. So I'm going to always be quiet, be serious, be reserved, so I can understand where people's emotional states are. Like, that affects you, like that, you know,
You're describing my life right now.
Yeah, I mean, shared experiences, man.
You're pretty intelligent for such a young person.
Thank you. That's
I've always told you that, I think, though. I don't know. I got a couple more questions. I didn't think this was going to go so long, but it's a good conversation.
It's a dope interview, for real. I love psychology and talking about all types of... I love talking about all types of shit, for real. Like, and I think that's why I struggle in a lot of interviews, because they'd be like, so when did you start playing mariachi? And I'm just like, another mariachi interview. Oh God.
You thought that's where I was going too, but I got some shit for your ass. No.
No, for real, I did. Because that's everybody's angle. I swear to God, it's just I can't. It's a blessing. I'm not complaining. It is a blessing to have my story told about mariachi. It is a blessing to have opportunities to be featured on news like, like Detroit Free Press and all that stuff. But at some point, it's just like, it's one aspect of me,
Yeah.
Not Camilla.
And you see how I'm working my way through it? I just wanted to start.
Good interview.
Yeah, I wanted to start from, where I know you at, but I wanted to work my way back to your origin and then back.
Yep.
So.
I like it. It's a good style.
You started with your music, went to your childhood, came back a little bit, and I want to ask you another question.
I'm ready.
Do you consider yourself a full-blown feminist?
Oh. Whoa. I mean, this is my answer. That's all I'm going to say. Feminism for who?
Care to expound?
No.
Feminism for who?
That's all I'm gonna say. Like, here's my thing. Feminism has meant different things to different groups of people.
Yes.
Since the birth of feminism.
I just found out recently, not to cut you off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to what you're saying, I literally just found out recently that they call feminism in waves.
Yep.
I never heard that in my life until like a few months ago.
Because at first, feminism was a bunch of white women being like, we want rights to vote. When black women and Latino women couldn't even get jobs. Like, come on, there's priorities in this world of women rights. And, I can't sit here and say I don't know, I can't sit here and say I'm a full-blown feminist, because it's just meant different things to different people, and unless I feel like I'm understanding what the end goal for feminism is for different groups of people, I'm not truly understanding what feminism is. Feminism for trans women looks different than feminism for Afghan women, which looks different for feminism in Brazil, which looks different for feminism in Kenya. It's just women's rights and equality is just too broad for me. It needs to be, I think, it has to be more specific than that, and so it's just I think I do a lot of feminist work. I'd say especially leading the woman mariachi. When I was coming into mariachi, it was very male dominant. My first band, was all guys, and I was the only, young woman. So for me, part of my feminist work was creating space for women mariachis here in Detroit because we had none. It was either your only options were to gig with, or when I was 16, my only options were to gig with these men groups. And my mom was not gonna let me hang out with these 30, 40-year-old men on the weekends.
You're talking about old men.
Old men. I'm not my youth mariachi group, but the older groups. You know what I'm saying? So it's just because at some point I ended up actually splitting from that youth mariachi group. I played with them for a few years, but after a couple of years, it was just things that were happening that it was again, also the bubble being popped of I thought it was just all yeah, let's just play music and be happy forever,
Yeah.
But then I'm getting told shit at gigs and performances and practices that the other guys aren't getting told, and then I'm feeling my the guys, the directors tell me to wear makeup and make myself look very pretty, and I'm these guys just scrub their ass and go on stage. Why do I have to, go out of my... I'm 13, bro. Why do I have to cake my face to perform?
Do you feel like you've changed your stance on that, though, specifically? Because
makeup?
I've seen you get ready for...
Makeup? Oh, yeah. I think...
Well, not just makeup, but I'm saying your presentation as a part of the mariachi theme.
I think it's less about... I understand where he was coming from. I think it's less about, what you were trying to say and more about... who you were saying it to. It's tragic to me, especially in folklorico groups. You'll see little 6-year-old girls with crazy
Yeah,
eyeshadow. Like, that is tragic to me.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let those little girls be little girls.
That's kind of like the pageant kids.
Yeah, that shit is weird as hell. Why are you trying to make this little girl look older? That's weird.
John Benet Ramsey type vibes.
You know, like, and it was kind of the same thing with me in that group. It was just like, why do I have to make myself appear appear older? Like, you know, and so again, it wasn't the fact that, you know, like, I didn't want to wear makeup. It was, why am I being told this thing in this way?
Yeah, okay.
Like, almost like it's part of my musicianship to also look the part. Again, whereas the guys just, like, they don't do anything, you know, like. So it's, for me, and it was deeper than that too. It was just like at practice, like, I was just getting like a lot of like backlash that none of the other guys were getting, or being questioned more. Like, I remember this, oh my God, I'll never forget this. I was like 15 or something, and we're going through music, sheet music, like actual sheet music. And everybody's in there. It's like 7, 8 of us, you know, like my band, the one that I went to middle school with, as well as like a couple of the older members from the other generation that Mr. Newhouse had taught, and Mr. Newhouse. And we're going through music, and I noticed something wrong in the sheet music. And I'm like, hey, this chord is wrong. Like, this isn't written like as it's supposed to be. And me and the director fought for like, or not the director, but one of the older dudes fought for like 15 minutes on it. Like, he swore on everything. Like, the music was right. Like, he was right. And it was so frustrating for me, because it's like, again, like, I know what I'm talking about, you know, and if I'm putting like, you know, my voice on it, if I'm speaking on it, it's because I believe it to be true. So it was so frustrating. Like, I left practice and I went to my room upstairs and I cried, because I was just, and because, what specifically triggered that though was I played it, and he's like, no, it's wrong. My guy, bandmate, plays the exact same shit that I played, and he was just like, oh, yeah, like, it's wrong. I cried. I literally cried. Like,
so it's like you're not being heard.
You know, like, I was so frustrated, and that was my first experience with, like, you know, my bubble being popped a little bit, and like knowing, like, understanding that women in music are treated differently. So it's just like I went upstairs and I cried, and I was just so emotional, and I was just like, and that was making me cry more, because I'm like, oh my God, now they think I'm an emotional girl.
Right.
But also, I'm just an emotional person. Like, I'm literally a little crybaby. So it's just like, but it's mostly like what people don't I think what people don't understand about me. I think my most misunderstood thing is just like, when I'm crying, it's because I'm so fucking angry. I'm so angry right now. Like, I'm either gonna punch the shit out of you,
or I'm just gonna cry.
Because I can't hold this anger in. Like, it's one or the other. And I think that's one of the most understood things about me, is just like I'm crying, but I'm mad. Like, I'm mad as fuck. And just because I'm crying, like, don't think it's because I'm like sad or soft. It's because like I could really beat the shit out of you right now, but I'm choosing to not be violent. I'm choosing to like not let anger get the best of me. So I'm choosing to cry.
Yeah. So I asked about the feminism thing because I actually expected you to just flat out say yes. But it seems like your take on it is a little more complicated than just...
Yeah, it's hard.
And the other day we were in the studio, you said, I think I'm a man-hater, Red. Like, so...
No, because I am. Like, for real.
Are you?
No.
What does feminism mean to you? For
For me? Okay. I think feminism for me is obviously the right to general, like, well-being. And that's everything. That's holistic well-being, I'll say, like, is feminism to me. That's not just, you know, opportunities or equal jobs or equal rates or salaries or, like, fucking free period, like, stuff. It's like, it's deeper than that. It's the ability to exist peacefully. It's like the freedom to live in feminine energy, like whatever that looks like for somebody, and not be in danger of violence because of it. You know, like, again, like, feminism to me really is just like, it's the right to holistic well-being.
So, in your experience as a woman for 25 years, or, I mean, you were a woman for 25 years, but You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that time you've been accosted by men a lot?
I mean, yeah. Like, it's the craziest. I'll put it like this. This is the craziest shit ever to me about being a woman. Almost everybody has a sexual assault story.
Yeah.
Damn near everybody. And like a typical woman experience is like, especially, I mean, not saying it's specific to college, but I'll say this one is relevant to like college, is like all of the women will know who are abusers on campus. Mm-hmm. Might not be said, but it's something we talk about. Why? Because as women, we have to know who can put us in danger. And that is a woman experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is something specific. And even, you know, in families, like if you look at families, like 9 times out of 10, the aunts know who the pedophiles are. Like, do the uncles know? No. They drink beers with them. But the aunts, the grandmas.
But sometimes the uncles do know.
Yeah, sometimes they know too, and that's true. That is very true.
Sometimes they knew. Sometimes it's the family that's complicit with it all.
Yeah, the whole family. But I feel like it's especially known among like the woman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like to answer like, have you been like afflicted by men? Most women are. It's just like in my personal life, like it's been different things, right? It's been like it has been like child molestation from like old men, and then it also has been just like the shit in high school, you know, and being challenged like musically, whereas all my other bandmates are just respected. And then
Do you ever feel just generally unsafe as a woman? I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know.
I'm gonna tell you about my birthday right now.
I don't walk in the shoes of a woman. I don't, you know, just to be totally transparent here.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily totally agree with the movement of feminism because a lot of times it's weaponized in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
Now, I understand you saying women might not, you know, like I just read something the other day, it was like women weren't allowed to open their own bank accounts until like 1979. Yeah. So I understand shit like that. Yeah. You know, I have a sister. I have, you know, I wish for a daughter. I don't have one. But I have to consider things like that for if I was to have a daughter. I don't want her to be a slave to some man because she can't even have her own bank account. Yeah. But I believe it could be weaponized in a lot of ways, in the same way that I think the Black Power movement, or whatever you want to call it, can be weaponized against people too, unnecessarily. Now, I'm a Black man. I know what it feels like to be a Black man, and I know what it feels like to be in fear of the police or to be in fear of the establishment at large in certain ways. You know, I don't necessarily feel that way as time is going on as much. Right. But I feel like sometimes we can use that and play that card for everything. Yeah. And I've seen women do the same thing. I can't say that I've seen you do the same thing necessarily, but that's why I'm asking the question. Yeah. Because I wanted to know what feminism meant to you, because I had the sense that you were a feminist, and that's why I thought you would. Because
I do a lot of feminist work.
Like, right, and you
would describe it.
I mean, just in conversation with you. I mean, I've been knowing you for a few years now. We talk a lot. I've heard you say things, and
probably like the Woman in Non-Binary Studio and stuff like that.
Yeah, and but I was going to challenge you and ask you, how do you reconcile that with, let's just say, perhaps, like, the love that you show for me? Yeah. Because I'm a man. Yeah. I don't think you feel unsafe.
No, I don't. And that's the thing. I think that's what makes men who, it should be the standard. It shouldn't be like a thing that you know, is like prized. I think it should be the standard of all men. That's just not the reality of the world we live in. But I think that's what makes safe men all that more important for us as women, right? Because I'll say it like this: as a woman, it's like you have something between your legs that makes your life constantly threatened. Yes. Whether you want to or not. Yes. That is just the reality. So like even on my birthday, like when I was telling you, like, you know, sometimes I'll take my little walks, you know, and say what you want. Like maybe I shouldn't be walking around my neighborhood, but I'm of the opinion I should be able to. I should be able. Thank you. I should be able to take a fucking walk. And I went to the gas station. I walk out the gas station. This guy is pumping gas, and he's just like, hey, hollering. And I'm like, okay, weird. I'm walking, ignoring him, and he's just like calling me. He's just like, hey, you're so beautiful. Calling me. Walking to the part where I'm about to cross the street. I turn around. He's by his car. I'm giving this dirty ass look to be like, don't fucking talk to me. Don't fuck with me. I'm walking, and I have a habit, because I walk with headphones, but I have a habit of always lowering my volume or taking it off. Checking my surroundings. And something just, as I'm walking halfway down the block of this next street now, across the street, I'm away from the gas station, walking down the block, and something just told me, like, check your back. And I turn around, this guy's 5 feet behind me.
What?
5 feet.
On his feet?
Walking
so
behind.
So he left his car?
Left his car at the gas station to come walk. And this is the day of my birthday, bro. Like, I woke up on some, like, it's my glow day. I'm gonna go get my walk in, get my sun in. Like, I was in such a good mood, you know what I'm saying? Just doing me. I bought a water at a gas station. A man followed me. That's being a woman, you know what I'm saying? And it took another man intervening for me to feel safe. Like, because he's following me. And I turn around and I realize he's followed me a block, and I realize how close he fucking is to me. And I'm like, now I'm going through the scenario in my head. I was like, all right, either I keep walking the street, I see if like he's actually following me, or I just go right the fuck back home. I cross the street because I'm like, I'm going home. Like,
that's weird.
I'm not even gonna find out why you're trying to follow me right now. So I cross the street and I'm looking for anybody to be like, oh my God, like who's watching me right now? Like who's around me that can witness what's happening? This guy's in his car. I go to the guy in his car and I'm like waving. I'm like, hey. And he's talking to me and he's like, is that guy with you? And I was like, no, like, please help me. Like, I don't know who that is. Like,
what?
He's just following me, bro. The guy crosses the street with me. And at this point, my friend, thank God, actually lived in front of the house that the guy was parked. So in my head, I'm just like, I'm just gonna camp out at her house until this guy goes away. Cause like, I'm not even gonna risk walking home right now because like this guy's on me, like I don't know what he wants. And then it takes the other guy stepping out of his car and flexing a little and being like, hey bro, you're being weird, like get the fuck on. That happens. He goes back to the gas station, and I shit you not, he waits for 15 minutes, like occasionally glancing to like where I am. And at that point, I'm like, oh my God. Like.
So my question is, what the fuck is the end goal? What are you trying to do? Because if I'm walking away from you and I'm clearly not showing interest in the fact that you're following me or you.
Yeah. No, he was.
What the fuck are you trying to achieve right now?
He was up to some dirty shit.
Right.
I don't know. It was some dirty shit. I don't know what he was trying to do, what he was planning to do, but that's what I'm saying. Like, we walk with a living threat for what's between our legs. And that is just the like woman experience. And it's just like, do I hate all men? No. Do I hate a lot of y'all? Yeah. Because y'all motherfuckers follow women. Like, what the fuck?
Hey, I could fuck with you on that.
Like, okay.
Because, I don't know. It's just like this thing. Like, I don't want to be just hated just because I'm a man. Like, I have a sister. I take care of her. I'll go to the gas station with her. I've never followed a woman in my life. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Is calling out to a girl, is that just inherently bad to you?
I think there's ways to do it. There's definitely respectful ways to, like, catcall. And feminists will probably disagree with me on that. They'll be like, we deserve to be respected. Shut the fuck up. I like knowing I look cute. I like being hollered at sometimes.
Yeah, right.
I like knowing I'm looking good. Like, and that's why I'm like, am I a full-blown feminist? Probably not. I like getting sexualized the fuck out of myself. That's not very feminist to me. Like,
right, but I was going to say, it's almost like the human race depends on me telling this motherfucker she cold. Because if I get it, and then we have some sons.
There's got to be some evolutionary shit. I don't know.
It is. That's exactly what it is. It's some primal shit in a man to want your ass. And that's so to kind of
circumstance though. Like if I'm going on stage, like for example, this happens a lot. I'm going on stage, like sometimes a guy will just boom, like, damn, you're fine. Or, you know, like, I'm on stage. I don't even know who that came from. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, and I'm like, okay. You know, like, I know I look good.
Yeah,
Like, if that same guy were to approach me 2 a.m. when I'm walking out the club and it's dark and you say, damn, you're fine, I'm on edge. I'm alert. Like, it's circumstance.
Yeah,
you know, like,
and I consider that all the time, which is why I'll see women all the time. 99 times out of 100, I'll choose not to even say shit.
Yeah.
Because if she's walking by herself,
Yep.
like for instance, I saw this girl yesterday. Oh my God. I'm on Wayne State campus.
Yeah.
I'm on Warren. She crossed the street. She's with a dude.
Yeah.
But I'm like, she's so fine.
Yeah.
But I ain't gonna say nothing because she kind of looked uneasy.
Yeah.
I taken a lot of things into consideration.
Yeah.
Like you said, is this outside of a club?
Yeah.
And she could potentially be, you know what I'm saying? Contextually, it just looks fucked up.
Yeah.
But to parallel with your story that you just told a minute ago, I was at a gas station, one that we just drove by, and this girl, I'm pumping gas, and this girl walked past, and I said, I'm like, damn, can I walk with you? She was walking, and she looked at me, she was like, nigga, please, like. But after that, I just was like, well, let me just pump my gas and get the fuck on.
Yeah.
I didn't follow her for 3 blocks.
Yeah, it's different, bro. It's really different. That's like context, and also like, I'll say this, like, I'm pansexual. I'm attracted to girls too. Like, it is no shit that makes me want to whip out my dick and, you know, like, tell this girl how pretty she is. Like, I don't know what the fuck y'all got going on with that. But I do compliment women. But it's just like, I think tone, what you're saying, like, I would never, also it's just not me and my personality. Like, I'll never see a pretty ass girl and be like, damn, like, you're so fine. Like, let me go with you. Like,
I typically don't do that
I'll never
either.
say that shit. But I always will tell a girl how pretty she is. I will forever, like, I love a pretty girl. And if you're pretty, like, I'm gonna tell you pretty. And 9 times out of 10, it's the usual, like, bisexual ass thing of just like, oh my God, you're so pretty. You know, like, if a man were to tell a woman, oh my God, you're so pretty, I don't want to speak for all women, but I would not feel threatened by that.
Yeah.
It feels like a compliment.
Yeah.
Saying like, damn, like,
And
you
it's
know,
less
like,
like you're about to fucking attack me, maybe.
like, let's primal. Like, you know, like, it's just, it's the way you go about it. So to answer that question, like, can you respectfully holler? Like, tell the girl she's pretty. Tell her you like her teeth. Like,
I
you
think
know,
it comes
like,
down to empathy. And I think you have to kind of put yourself in the other person's shoes. Like, imagine, so I think about this too. Like, when I'm with my homies, like, say we go to the movies, we go to a restaurant or something, it's 4 or 5 of us. A lot of times, for some reason, I don't know what it is, it's some sort of like magnet where we just see attractive women when we're together. But then I think about it, like, how would this feel if I was her and 5 dudes climb out of a fucking Tahoe and we're like, damn, girl, you fine as hell. And it's like 5 of us and we're surrounding her and shit.
It's scary though. Like,
why the fuck would...
And you have to understand, like, as a woman, we're navigating the spectrum of guy that just hollers and guy that follows you when you leave the gas station. And that's what we're constantly living with. And when guys holler, we need to put you somewhere on the spectrum for us to understand how to navigate and how to feel safe. Like, are you gonna possibly, like, follow me home and rape me and kill me? Or are you just telling me that I'm pretty? That's why the levels of reaction vary so much, because people, as women, we're trying to place you on that spectrum. Like, all right, where is this guy in terms of, like, man? Is he, like, murderer, rapist? Or is he, like, just someone that thinks I'm cool?
And I would imagine that's kind of hard to differentiate, especially in the moment.
In a moment, we have to differentiate that, because that moment might be life or death, literally.
Just the last thing before I move on to the next question, I was talking to this girl. I think we were out on a date when she told me this story, but she was like, she was walking up Jefferson, and she had her headphones on, and she's just walking. I think she was going to a McDonald's, and I think she was like 16. She walks past these 2 dudes that are like sitting on a porch, they're standing on the steps of like a stoop. And she's just walking past, and I think she notices one of the dudes. No. She's walking, she notices the dudes, and she's just walking, listening to music, can't hear anything. She says, as she's walking, she gets a grab on her arm, they grab her and they snatch her up, and she turns around, he's like over her like this, like he's mad. She takes her headphones off. She's like, what the fuck? And he's like, you don't hear me fucking talking to you?
Yeah.
And she like, no, I got my fucking headphones in.
She put him right here. Like, this man is dangerous.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
And I'm like, dog, what the fuck? Because I ain't never done no shit like that in my life. Not, first of all, I mean, it hurts being rejected,
yeah.
but it doesn't make me want to go
angry,
snatch her up. And, you know, so I understand. There's a spectrum of all of these things.
Right.
There's a spectrum of men. Some of them are assholes. The worst of the worst are rapists, kidnappers, you know, Ted Bundy types.
Right.
Then you have the ones that
virgin gamers
never say shit to a woman because they're definitely afraid.
Right.
And you know, I feel like most men lie in between there, but I also can recognize that it's dangerous for a woman to just assume that every guy has good intentions because it's so many that don't.
Yeah, like I said, it's quite literally the difference of like life and death sometimes, or safety. Like, how safe am I? You know, like, it's really fucked up. But this is how I screen all men in my life, and this is how, like, it was one of the first conclusions that I came to of like, oh, Red's probably a good dude. Is like, and again, it's fucked up, and I know it's fucked up, might be triggering, so sexual assault trigger. When I think about how much I trust a man and where he falls in this spectrum of like safe man, unsafe man, the first thing I think of is if I were to be around this man in a room and to, for some reason, be unconscious, do I think I would be safe with this man? And I feel like it really is intuition that guides that answer for me. Because I can't place what exactly makes me feel like, oh yeah, Red, no, he'll be good. He'll give me some water. Like, you know, he'll make sure, you know, I sleep good, you know, but it's something in me that guides that answer. And I can't explain it.
I think people have auras. I think people,
that too.
I think that shit is real. Man, I could talk about some shit right now, but I'm gonna keep it simple and say that I believe in auras, and I think when you're around a person, you can feel whatever it is that's inside of them emanating out of them. And I think sometimes, like, there's been times where I've been around dudes and I'm just like, I know
you got a weird
this nigga is on some bullshit.
I
don't know why I know that. And a lot of times, more times than not, I'm right. So I feel you.
It's like intuitive questioning, kind of like, and it's very internal. And it's funny that you mentioned that too, because I have like, actually, I'm not gonna say it. That'll be a different conversation. You can't reveal all your spiritual gifts.
All right.
You can't do that. Like,
you told me that already. I know what you're about to say.
So it's been times like that too, that seeing stuff, you know, are just like, you know, that I can't explain, but I know I feel, you know, and that's why I use that question to guide my relationships with men. Like, within, you know, like a conversation or within just a day of interacting with you, like, I will have my answer. Like, and that will guide how I navigate this relationship with you. Like,
I feel that.
You know?
We might have to do another interview at some point, because there's some shit we could talk about. But last question.
All right, but
totally unrelated to everything we talked about. Are there any? I'm a very big conspiracy theorist, but I don't think they're conspiracies.
I just told you my favorite. I just told you my Selena one.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So when we were in the car, you were talking about the reason that you think Selena was actually killed, which isn't hard to believe to me.
Yeah.
But are there? What conspiracy theories do you like entertain? Like,
oh God.
Do you delve into that type of stuff? Do you go down rabbit holes?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I love also fiction books. And there's a couple conspiracy theories. Like, the first conspiracy theory, which I think ties to everything, is the idea that our government knows more about planes and dimensions and like third, fourth, fifth, sixth up in realities than they claim. And I think that they manipulate those dimensions to create our current reality. And that shit goes deep. Yeah. Like, it also goes back to like, you know, and even the snake theory, like the people in politics are snakes, like, I can't even say I disagree with them. Like, but I definitely, truly believe that the government knows more about metaphysical sciences than they claim to believe. And not only do they know about it, but that they actively use it against people to control and to, damn, I feel like maybe I should have had a mask and shit. Oh, a cartel, no. Government, then, right, if I disappear.
I'm going to darken you out, and I'm going to put a deep voice in your shit.
All right, wait.
Yeah, so I believe in the metaphysics.
Like, you're gonna put underneath, like, government agent for 16 years.
Right.
Worked at, what's it called? Area 51. So that is one I definitely absolutely believe in. And how much that encompasses, I don't know. Maybe they control the weather, like, too, if they're manipulating it. Okay, there you go.
You ever heard of DARPA? Shit's real, bro.
Okay.
It's not a theory.
I think they did Hurricane Katrina. Like, I think they made that shit happen.
They did.
Like, that was a conspiracy.
So I think most conspiracies are not conspiracies. I think most of them are actual things that they convince people that are conspiracies to make people like, oh no, you're crazy. And they make everything seem like it's a theory.
So this is a theory. This is actually the theory I was going to say that I think. I think that... I think that there's some sort... I know people tie this to, like, demonic rituals and just like whatever, but I do think that there's some sort of natural law that says that the government has to put in front of our face what they are like manipulating or the scenarios that they're creating for them. Yes, The Simpsons, bro. Like I do think there's some truth to that. Like they have to somehow.
That's part of the ritual.
Yeah.
Is you have to make it plain sight.
Yep, you have to put it in their face, and then I think that is why conspiracy theories are always spun. Because it's like they have to tell the truth about what they're doing for the magic or for whatever they're manipulating in the fucking metaphysical world to work. It's like it can't be illusion. It has to be accepted by the people for them to manipulate whatever they're trying to manipulate. And I really do believe that.
That's deep. I never heard that before.
Yeah, so it's essentially whatever they're doing.
But it would explain why everything is done so openly.
If you look at movies too, like movies from the 80s, 90s, like will have events. Like I was watching some Netflix movie. I can't even remember what the fuck it was about. Shit was COVID. That whole movie was about a virus that infects the whole world. That game, remember that game they came out with like 10 years ago? That like online world game where it's just like you have to try to destroy the world and you could choose, like you can choose to do it with a virus.
Yeah, you're talking about, it's a card game.
There's a card game and there's an online simulator too.
Okay.
Like, right in front of our face.
Yeah.
They understand, they know how to infect a world population with a virus.
What about 9/11?
Bush.
Yeah.
Bush.
Yeah, you my dog. I don't even know if there's any more that needs to be said.
Like, come on, bro. Like, come on. There was too much incentive. Like, that. What's crazier to me, though, is that, like, what's so funny about all that to me is who the fuck did Obama kill? Like, who did he kill?
Because they said that he was.
He said it was Osama, and then
They said Osama bin Laden had been dead. Damn. Like he had been dead for a long time, or that he's still alive. No, there's a couple of theories, but you know that was strange to me too, because they're like, we found him and killed him all in one night, and then we put his body in the ocean all in one night. And
vote for Obama.
No evidence.
Vote Obama.
Yeah,
I swear, that shit is so deep. It's so deep. And yeah, I hate this country and I hate this government. I'm just here, bro. Like, I'm just making music. Like,
you're familiar with Candace Owens? Most people's relationship with her is that they hate her. I don't hate her anymore. I did at one point.
Yeah.
She said this thing about conspiracy theories. She basically said, paraphrasing, something to the effect of like, if you're not a conspiracy theorist, you're probably stupid. Like,
you're an NPC, bro. Like,
because you're just going with whatever people are saying.
NPC. I mean, that's basically what everybody's doing. Like, anybody paying particular attention to why we spend most of our waking hours working and being distracted from what's actually going on,
and disconnected from the earth, and not growing our own food,
and having actual money incentive, and like you have to pay rent, that having structures that enforce your distraction so you have no choice but to be stupid and distracted.
Just recently, I was having a conversation, I think, with two different people, but about the same thing. And what I think I've realized is that I think one of the conspiracies that keeps us, so you mentioned different planes and realms, and what I'm thinking is kind of tying into that, because I think they intentionally taught us to eat 3 times a day so that you don't tap into whatever spiritual energy you are naturally able to tap into. Because what they say in religions like Muslims, or
you have to fast for the spirit.
And when you fast, my cousin told me himself, he went through something traumatic in his life and it caused him not to eat for days. And when he did that, remember I said earlier that I believe auras are real?
Yeah.
He said when he fasted for those days,
he could see his aura.
He saw auras on people.
Yep.
And they were different colors and they behaved differently depending on whatever mood or state they were in. Now, if you pair that with the fact that they tell us, they gave us the food pyramid. You're kind of younger than me, but when in the 90s, I remember seeing the food pyramid.
They were like meat.
Yeah, meat, cheese, and all this bullshit that turns out turns out all along this causes cancer, and this gives you heart disease, and this.
Because it was funded by food companies that needed their shit to sell.
An interest for you to eat that bullshit all day. Yep. But I also think the 3 meals a day thing is another lie to keep your body bogged down with food so that you don't fast and tap into whatever it is that you can tap into. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen anybody's auras.
Yeah.
But I do know when you fast, your body literally recreates itself and creates stem cells to rebuild whatever needs rebuilding.
Yeah.
I saw a white lady say when you fast, at 24 hours, the biome, starts making stem cells to rebuild your gut.
That's what's up.
When you go to 36, 48 hours, it starts making brain stem cells or something, she said, to where it'll start rebuilding your body.
We were never meant to eat this much. And also to the point that the government and, sleaze and evilness and dimensions, if you look at even portions in America.
Ridiculous.
Compared to the rest of the world. There's a reason they're trying to keep you spiritually.
You gotta tell me. But that's what I'm saying. Our relationship to food is even determined by a bunch of shit that I think was on purpose.
Because we're spiritually dead.
Facts. And I think, I've been fasting for the last 3 weeks. Right now, I think I'm on hour 18 of not eating. And I've been doing this for 3 months. 4 months at this point, where I just eat once or twice a day. And the portion sizes are much smaller. I'm counting calories. And I'm just trying to be cognizant of what I'm putting into my body. I've lost weight, but on top of that, you would think that you don't eat, you eat but once a day. The way that they tell it, it's almost like you would think you're just walking, you don't have no energy and you're just sick and tired.
Right.
No, it's the actual exact opposite. Yeah. When I eat 3 times a day and stuff myself full of shit,
sluggish.
I feel tired. I hate everybody. I don't feel like doing shit.
Right.
But when I don't eat is when I feel the most energetic ever.
You be feeling tuned in fasting. Man.
Crazy how that works.
Tuned in. And I think the only thing is for me is I struggle a little bit with blood sugar. So fasting's always been a bit of a struggle for me because my blood sugar will dip very low. And that's something I've always just had to be aware of. I want to fast as long as I can, but to the point that I'm about to pass out at work. All right, I gotta eat this apple. So it's just but I do believe that humans are supposed to fast for a reason. Again, in our lineage, our ancestors, they weren't eating McDonald's.
Because the food wasn't even available like that anyway.
Yeah, that's why.
And they were totally fine.
Yep. They lived to be 120 years old. I wonder why. They look young as hell. Erykah Badu spiritually fasts a lot.
We just saw her on video.
She looks so young.
And she's 60.
Yeah. Not it's crazy. But again, to the point that this is all orchestrated, right? So it's just there's a reason, they make, stuff with hella sugar and hella salt and hella addictive and hella, instant gratification. You know,
Yeah.
like I feel good as hell when I eat a donut.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, that shit tastes.
Cheeseburger.
That tasted great.
You ever been over? You've been overseas because
Yeah.
you went overseas with culture creators. You notice how different the food was?
Way better. McDonald's was like actual food.
I never even been to a McDonald's overseas, but when I went to France,
Right.
all of the food was better.
Yeah.
It felt better. It was cleaner. The portions were smaller. It was, it felt like real food.
It's because it's just everything is bought in America, even health. You know,
Right.
like because it's in the interest of a pesticide company.
Some company, yeah.
Some company, to, advertise to farmers and tell them how much more money they're gonna make when their crops aren't getting ate up by, whatever. And it's in the interest of the farmer to buy that pesticide to make more money from their
Yeah.
crops. It's the problem with capitalism. Like capitalism doesn't center health,
Right. It's centered around finding the cheapest way to do shit.
Yep. And then doing it exponentially.
Facts.
Like that is capitalism.
Yeah, you're smart as hell. I fucks with you. That's the end of the interview, man.
What's
High
that?
five on camera.
Yay.
I really appreciate you.
Of course,
That's
of course.
good. We're gonna end that bitch right there.
Camilla Cantu. I can't believe you made me say my whole